Welcome to the MPP FileMaker Database Advanced Tutorials. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to add a new Pottery Ware button to the Pottery Card. This assumes, of course, that you know what the Pottery Card is and that you have been working with the FileMaker database and have some understanding of how it works. Now, there are a handful of skills that are necessary in order to be able to do this type of modification. First, this is an advanced skill, so it assumes that you are familiar with or have some knowledge of FileMaker layouts, tables, and their fields, and that you feel comfortable going into the Manage Layouts and the Manage Tables in order to make changes and corrections or modifications that are specific to your needs. You should also have some knowledge of FileMaker coding. Now, you don't have to be an advanced coder, and this is not necessarily completely advanced. This is sort of an intermediate to advanced level tutorial, but you should have at least an understanding of how the coding works. Now, in order to be able to make modifications to the MPP database, you need to have admin privileges. And to get admin privileges, you need to contact bates@andrews.edu, unless, of course, it has already been assigned to your password. Now, these privileges are limited to project directors who are currently working on a project, an active research project that is associated with the Modern Plains projects, a research associate, or a student perhaps who's working on their dissertation. If you are one of those individuals, then please contact me and I'll make sure that this will work for you. If not, you can still contact me and maybe we can figure out something if this is going to help you with your research. And of course, one of the most important things before you ever begin is to make a backup. Don't work on the data that you have been using. Don't work on the active data, that is. To make a backup, and you should know how to do this if you are on the advanced level, you simply go to File, then you go to Save Copy As, and then you can save your copy, give it a name, and you want to copy current copy, and then work on that current copy. From that point forward, you can change the names and anything like that that you want in the future, but at least test it out before you begin. Now, I'm not going to do that because I already know what I'm doing, and I already have backups to this, so you can start. So let's take a look at our database, and this, as you know, is the opening page, and this is the home page. You'll also notice that I have two home buttons. That is because we are using a specific project here called Anastasia's project that she's working on, and this is mostly to help her with her pottery card so that she can have advanced wares on her pottery cards. So I'm going to select home 2 so that we're working under her home card. Now, you'll notice the other thing, that if you work on an iPad, you'll notice that the fields that we're using is a little bit bigger because it's been set aside or designed to be used on a computer, whereas an iPad is a smaller screen. So I can make this larger and spread it out, and this becomes important as we move along. So let's talk about what it takes to do this. There are several steps that we're going to be working on, and the first thing that you'll want to do is to create a new window. So let's open up a new window by going to Windows, New Window, and then we're going to open up a window that is so we can take a look at that pottery card. Now, you have to know where the pottery card is. It's in the layouts, and there are two ways to do this. To go to the layouts, first of all, you can use the layout drop-down menu here where you can scroll through until you find the layout. Now, this is specifically a project for Anastasia, and you can see that her pottery card is labeled here at the bottom for adding pottery information. But if you're looking for one that you may have created, then you may have it in a different place. And the standard ones are down here at the bottom called pottery cards, and we have the different ones depending on which project that you're working on. So if you're working on a Bronze Age project or an Iron Age project, then you might be modifying one of these. But we're going to go and work on this one here, and we're going to open up a card that's specific. Now, this is so that we can keep track. Again, you'll notice that it is larger. You can see that it is larger than the screen size if you're working from an iPad, and you can expand this and make this bigger or smaller as we're going to do. Now I've already been working on adding some buttons and testing them out, so you're going to find some rather interesting looking things here. So we're going to go through that particular part. Now the first step that we're going to do once we've created these two new cards, this new window, and that is we're going to add the button. So first let's add a button. And we are adding it here to the wares because Islamic wares, there are many types of wares. If you look at Greco-Roman, you'll notice that I don't have very many wares in the Greco-Roman or the Byzantine, and that's because our projects don't find a lot of Greco-Roman or Byzantine pottery. But when it comes to Islamic wares, we have so many, and this is where we're going to be able to add new ware types. You'll also note that there are early Islamic wares, middle Islamic wares, and late Islamic wares, and so if you have a specific that your ware is specific to a designated period, in this case the Islamic period, and that is either early Bronze Age or middle Bronze Age, early Islamic, middle Islamic, or late Islamic, then you need to make sure that you're putting the button on the right tab. So you can see here down at the bottom there's little gray dots, and then you select these and it's labeled at the top. So here on the third little dot, and we can create more too. You can also create one, let's say you have more specific things. You can also do that and add, but that would be for another video. But here we have late Islamic wares, and we're going to be working in the early Islamic ware. So we're just going to click over here to early Islamic. That means that when I click the early Islamic button, as you notice it filled in early Islamic, I'm going to select one, I'm going to select the basin. And then the ware type, I would select a ware type like a cream ware or a local ware or a mold ware or whichever one. As long as you haven't pressed the green button, you haven't added anything. And that's where you want it to stay. Don't press the green button until the end, the very end of this video. Then we can go through troubleshooting and see how it works. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to add a button. And we're going to add a button by first clicking on Edit Layout. And there are two ways of doing buttons. One, we can just add a floating button like you see this one here called blue slip grayware. There is no such thing as blue slip grayware, but that's just because we're trying to come up with something. We're going to create one called, let's say we're going to make purple slip grayware. No, there's no such thing as purple slip grayware, but I'm just going to demonstrate how to make the button. So here you can see I have two of the same thing, and I'm going to create a new button. Now, if it's a single button like this, you could simply hold down on the mouse over the button, hold your Alt or Option key, depending on whether you have a PC or Mac, and then you can drag, and you'll notice that it duplicated the button. So that's one way of doing it. The other way to do it is you could go up to where it says, up at the top, it says, and you probably can't see it here, Insert, and then Insert, it says Insert Button, and then it allows me to say what is the button, and we'll be typing in purple slipped grayware, like so. So this would make it a single button that's sort of all by itself. It's sort of, we can put it anywhere as long as it's within this field. So it can't be over here on this side, it can't be over on this side, it must be inside this, where this tab is. You see the tab, if I slip to the next one, then the button remains in place. If I put the button over here, like so, and I slide it, you notice that when I come back, the button is not in the early Islamic. So we want to put that back in early Islamic. Now you can adjust the size, and I'm going to adjust the size over here. But the first thing you're going to notice when you do something like that is that it doesn't quite fit. So how do you adjust that? Well, to adjust that, we're going to move over. Just going to slide this over here to the other side. Try to get it all on screen so you can see the whole screen. So we're going to slide this over, and what we're going to do is going to select this Appearance tab, which is on the right side. If you are using FileMaker 18 or 19 and above, then this will be embedded. And that means as soon as you hit the Enter Layout mode, then it's going to show you this on the right. Earlier versions, you actually had to click a button and then it would bring it up. So now we're going to click on the appearances, and that's what that is like a Artist Palette. And this is where you can make all kinds of adjustments here. I'm not going to go into a lot of adjustments, but you can do a number of things. For this particular one, we need to make some adjustments in order to make it fit. So let's just click on one here that says Blue Slip Grayware, or one button I've already done. And if you look down where it says Advanced Graphics, you can see it says padding. And what the padding does is add spaces above and below the words, or on the right or the left. You can see it's 0 all the way around here, but when I select the purple slipped grayware, it's 14 on the top. Notice what happens when I reduce it. You can see that it's going up. So I want to change all of these to 0. So as soon as I do 0, it goes up to the top. As soon as I do 0 on the left side, it goes all the way to the right, or to the left, and then the bottom. And so I'm going to do 0 for all of these. Now at this point you could also make a lot of adjustments. You can add colors to your lines, you can add gradient, you could change the fill color. Here's a gradient fill. I can make a fill color, I can make that fill color green, I can make it whatever you want. So this is the place to do that. I'm not going to do that now. Now I'm going to show here, I'm just sort of adding and moving things around. But look, I want the button to fit in the same space. So the easiest way to do that is now click on that button that is sort of the one that you want it to be underneath. And then you go over here to the ruler, which is on the left side, says position. And then what you're going to do is look for the size. In this case it says that it's 100 points. And we can change that to inches or centimeters, or just by clicking on that thing it'll things. I just use points because it's easier for me to use. And so here I don't like that one, so I'm going to actually change that to 50 instead of 51. It was just a small adjustment, but that's the adjustment for the height. Now I'm going to click on the other one. Now I know it's 100 by 50. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select the width, turn that into 100, and then I'm going to change this one to 50, and now the button is the same size. Now unfortunately, because of the size of this, it's not quite big enough to get that grayware. So I'm going to just make it a little bit bigger. Now the other thing that's important is alignment. So if I have two buttons that I have floating out like this, and I want them to be on the same side so that they're lined up on the left edge, I select both of those buttons like so, and then you'll notice where it says Arrange and Align. Alignment has a little line here with the two buttons, or whatever it can be, any kind of field or whatever you want. And when I click that, they will all line up to the left. If I click the middle one, then they will center to the right or to the top. Notice when I did to the top, now the button has hidden itself. We don't want that, so we're going to just take this, move it over, and I'm going to make an adjustment. So here's where I want to line up to the top. I have these two columns of button, and I want this new button in a new column to be lined up there. So I go and I select that one, and I can then arrange, and by moving this thing, and you can see the line pops up so we can see it. Now let's get everything here. We're going to line these two together. Let's make sure. So I'm going to select this column button plus the blue slip grayware button, and then I'm going to make sure that they are aligned. Now if I bring that down a little and I do it again, you're going to notice how it changes. I'm going to click that button and see how it nicely lined up for me. And this one, now I'm going to do the blue slipped and the purple slip grayware, and I'm going to align them to the left so that they're lined up to the left, and then we're going to do something, we're going to spread them out, and that is spacing. Now this is our vertical spacing, is the one on the right, and this is my horizontal spacing on the left. I'm going to click on the vertical spacing, and then what it's going to do is it's going to even them out, so that if I had more than one button, let's say that I were to add another button here like this, and I want them to be evenly spaced between them, I can click that space button and it'll adjust the buttons so that they're evenly spaced. So anyway, this is just a couple of features which are really nice to make it look really neat. And so now I have my button. Now there are a couple of things that we need to do. First, we need to assign this button to a script, and the script you're looking for is the POT insert ware. So here it is, purple slipped grayware, and we're going to add, what I did was I double clicked on it, I went to perform script, And then we're looking for POT insert ware. Now the nice thing is that there is a way to search. And since you already know what it is, POT underscore insert ware. And there it is, insert ware. Now you're going to notice that I have insert ware and I have insert ware brittle. And that is referring to brittle ware. And the reason is because the two scripts are slightly different. This is also the topic for another. If you want to add so that when you do click the button, it not only adds in the where the name, but it also adds something in the comments, then you would make a new script that could do that, and that's what the brittleware does. It allows you to add something there. But we're going to do insert. Okay, we're going to put insert, and we're going to hit OK. Now that we have that, we also notice it has an optional script parameter. So we're going to come back and say, okay, what optional script parameter do we need? And the optional script parameters are going to be found by clicking on any one of the buttons that we have to see what the script parameters look like. So if I click on lamp here, you can see that it says in the optional script parameter lamp ware, and then it has this ampersand, and then a paragraph sign, ampersand, and then no totals. And if we click on any other one, you can see that it has the name, what's on the button, and then it has the same no totals. Now what this is doing is when you put it in, it will put these exact words. So whatever you put here, when you click on this button, it'll fill that information into the where exactly as it reads in these script parameters. So the best way to do this is to actually click into it and see what it shows. Pops up this specify calculation, and you're going to copy this. So I'm going to copy this, and then once I've copied it, I don't need to save anything. And now I'm going to go to that purple slipped gray ware, and then I'm going to add that in. But see, it's not correct because it says blue, and I'm going to put purple. I can put anything in here. I could put lampware, I could put cream wares, I can anything that I want to show up inside the where field. Also, it says no totals, and all that means is that if this is not inserted, then there isn't anything there. So that's what it's referring to here. So now we slip OK. Now you can see it says our script is POT underscore insert ware, and then our optional script parameter is purple slipped ware. Now when we take that out and we can save it, we can hit exit and save, and watch what happens when I now select purple slipped ware. You can see it added purple slipped ware. Now it may be that you don't want floating buttons, but rather what you want to do is you want to add to an existing column. So let's go and shift over here to another one that we might use. So let's say we go to, let's just imagine that our purple slipped ware not only was in the early Islamic, but was also in the middle Islamic. So we're going to add our purple slipped ware, and we're going to add it to one of these buttons here. Now the important thing is that there has to be space for the button to do this. That is that you have to be within it. And if you notice when I drag this thing down, it goes, if you go too far, then it disappears. And that's because that blue line that you see right here is telling you that bottom, or the edge, and you can see it outline of this tab field. This is the bottom edge of the tab field. Anything that you want to slide to the right or the left, the bottom must be above that blue line. Likewise, you can see there is a blue line on the right and a blue line on the left, and there's a blue line on the top which outlines the tab field. So your buttons must be within that space. But let's imagine now that what I want to do is I want to add it to, this is late, so we're going to go back to middle, slipped on the middle, and we're going to add it. And you can add it to any one. You can add a new button to any one of these. So I'm going to add it, let's say we're going to add it here. And I'm going to double click on it, and what it does is it shows a script for that button, UD, which means undetermined. Now I don't want to put my purple slipped ware underneath the UD, because UD is kind of the last one. That's the one. We don't know what it is, but here it is. We haven't got a name for it, so we usually call it a UD, or undetermined. I wanted to go after Raqqa, so I wanted to fit, or maybe I wanted to go after luster, and that's where do I want to slip that button in. And as long as you select the one that you wanted to go underneath, then we can add this. So here I select monoglaze or luster, and I want to select Raka because I want the button to go between Raka and undetermined. And you can see there's a little plus. The 5 of 6 means this is the 5th button in a button column. See the button column there at the top? Shows you the type of button. The button we are using are ones used with words. You can also change it to icons or an icon with words. There's lots of adaptations that you can make. But for this video, we're only just using just a column using word buttons. So now we're not going to change anything to the existing button. Instead, we're going to hit the plus sign. And once I put the plus, you'll notice that it has added a button for me. And this is where I can put my purple slipped gray ware. Like that. Now that I have added it, I need to go find my script. So we're going to come here, go and search for pot_ware. Underscore insert ware, right? Insert. And you can see there are lots of inserts, so we want to be sure we grab the right one. Insert where. And our script parameter, if you remember, add the script parameter. You see, we're going to edit that script parameter, and here we're going to change that script parameter to purple. Oops, that's not how you spell purple. Okay, so now that is purple, and we can hit OK. And now our optional script parameter is all set up there. You'll also notice that I did it slightly differently. I didn't open up the button, but I did it when I put in the script. So if you are adding a script, not my mistake, it popped up the script itself, but if you're going to add a script, change a script to this, you can put the script parameter at that time. Otherwise, you just double click on the button and then you can add your script parameter. And we're going to click out of that. But again, it's all squished up. But we can bring it down a little bit lower, like so, and try to make it fit. Now, unfortunately, that's a little crowded, isn't it? So what can we do? Well, one we can do is go back to our design, and we can look at, and I want you to see over here that I can change the size of the font. So I'm going to change this font now, and I've changed all the fonts are changed to 14. So the names are slightly smaller. Maybe I can make it with a 15 and see if that fits. And it does, more or less. So positioning changes depends on how big the letters are. Can affect, particularly this has 3 lines, purple, slipped, and gray. That's quite a big button. Most of the time you don't want to go past 2 like Egyptian sgraffito. You want to have 2 lines rather than 3, but it just so happens that the one that we're making up has 3 buttons. Alright, so now our button is done. We're going to go and hit exit, like so. We're going to save. We're going to see whether or not it works. So you can clear this any way that you like. I'm just going to select it and delete it for now. I'm going to change this to Middle Islamic like we did there. And there's that purple slipped grayware button. Again, we're going to, instead of making it a basin, we're going to make it a jar. And then we're going to hit our purple slipped grayware. And it looks great. But again, do not press that button. We're at the green button, which is the add button that you've been using in the past for other types of vessels. We're going to do that at the end. Right now, what we want to do is to test out whether the button goes. So that's our first step. You've assigned a script, you've created a button, you've assigned a script, and you've copied and pasted the script parameter and tested the button to make it work. The next thing we're going to do is go in and work on the table. So you go up to File, click on the file. That is, it's at the top of the screen. It would say File, like FileMaker Pro or something like that. File, and then you hit on File. And you may not be able to see it as I'm looking at it right now. It doesn't look like you might be able to see this, but I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to look at Manage. Again, this is one of those advanced or intermediate skills that you need to be able to do before you can tackle this, and that is you want to be able to get to the file, to the manage. What are we going to manage? In this case, we're going to manage the database. So now that we've managed the database, we're going to need to find the pottery table. And our tables, here are 3 tabs. First is tables, one is field, and one is relationships. Tables, fields, relationships. So the table we are looking for is the pottery table. So you can find that first by scrolling down to the one that says pottery and selecting that. When you've done that, you can then select fields, and you'll notice in the upper left hand corner where it says table, it tells us that this is the pottery table. You could also alternatively, you could go to, just instead of clicking on tables, and just click on fields and then go to this drop down menu and find pottery. Once you've done that, you're looking for the field name, which is noted. And these are the list of field names that appear on the pottery table. We're going to scroll down because we're looking for where find. It just so happens it's the very last one. We're going to select that, and just so you can see it, we're going to select it, and then we're going to click the options button right there on the right side. Now that I have an option button, we now have the other skill that you need to know, and that means you have to be comfortable with how scripting works. This is a case, and so it says in the case of where will equal this, then you're going to put this. So in the case that the where is equal to bichrome glazed, then it's going to add bichrome. And what that means is that whatever is in the pottery button that it sees here, it's going to add this to the value list and look for this in the value list, whatever's on this side. And the value list is our next step. So what you're doing here is you're going to say, now this is purple, so go down in alphabetical order, and purple, it would go right here. So we're going to copy one of these, and you can copy any one of these, but you're going to copy one, then you're going to hit return. So you make a space, paste that in, put your mouse or cursor on the left side of the W and where, and then you're just going to space it over. It doesn't have like tabs or anything. Now here is the important part. This is truly the most really important. You must have the exact wording that you used on the button. So in our case, the exact wording is purple slipped gray ware, and capitals do matter. So whatever is going, this is what will show up in the field. When you click the button, this will show up in the where field. Okay, so this will show up in the where field. It has to match exactly. Now what you want to do is what is going to appear in the charts field. That is when you click on this and make a neat chart, you can't put purple slipped gray ware. It's just too long. So instead you need to have something that is similar but shorter. And that's where you can put an abbreviation. So if you wanted, over here you could put like PSG. That's what works for you. Or you can just say purple, or purple S, or something like this. We have other types of slipped colored slipwares that we use. So I usually do, for this case, like I use purple and just slipped. And that's enough. Okay? So purple and slipped. Now that you have it, copy whatever that is, because again, it has to be exactly the same. So copy that. So select it and then copy it. You can use the edit menu to copy if you like, or if you know how to use your command or option key, or whichever key it is that you use to do copying. Then you hit OK. Everything looks good right now. We hit OK again, and great. Still, we're not pressing the green button. I know it sounds like a broken record, but don't press it yet. We're not there yet. We're coming to that soon. All right, our next step. The next step is to go in, hit the File button again, and we're going to go again back to Manage, and we're going to manage, this time we are going to manage value lists. As you know, a value list is a list of words that are used in drop-down menus and things like that, and often they launched scripts and things. So we have lots and lots of value lists here. We use a lot of them in this database. And the one that you are looking for is called the where's all. Where's all, it's down here at the bottom. Where's all. Now we also have where's all backup, which you're also going to modify that one as well. But let's go to first where's all. And once you've selected it, you hit edit. And here is a list of all of the where's abbreviations. That is, all of the where's that when they show up in a chart, this is what is going to show up. So you'll notice here, instead of saying handmade geometric pattern ware, it's just going to be HMGP. Or instead of handmade courseware, it's just handmade. Or any number of, we have EM glazed, we have B&G, which is forgot what that means, but esgraffito ware, instead of writing the whole thing out because it would be too long in the chart. So in this case, now it's time for us to add our purple slipped. So I'm going to put it in here underneath, and again it's alphabetical, and that just makes it easier for us to find it. We're going to go purple. We can type it out if you remember, or we can just paste it like you see there. And now it's ready. So now I've added purple slipped. If you look in here, you can also see purple slipped and pink slipped and blue slipped, which I've been practicing with. So this is our purple slipped. We hit OK. And I'm going to go now, just in case, I'm going to go into, if you are adding this, by the way, if you're going to, this is going to be something you're going to use on a regular basis, also put it into the backups. This is just to make sure that we don't lose something. So I would go ahead and put it in here. Since this is a demonstration, I'm not going to add it to this particular value list. Once the value list has been completed and you have added to where's all, the new where, you're going to hit OK. And now everything should be ready. And what you are doing, and if we're going to move the Pottery Card off screen just a little bit, and we're going to go over to the charts, click on the stats like you see here, and we're going to select 17. Notice that I have blue slipped ware and I have pink slipped ware. We're about to add purple slipped ware. So how do we do that? Now we can go back to our card. Don't hit the green button yet. Now you want to go, now what you want to do is you want to go to somewhere like an earth locus, or in this case she has earth cleanup, whichever locus you want to test it. Again, we want to make sure we're doing a test. So I've selected, in this case, the earth locus. Now you can get to it by going to the home button if you want, and then select the last earth locus. Get back to where you were, scroll down until you find one that you want to test it on. We're going to test it on 17.1 because that's the one we have here, or 17.2. Go to the pottery like we've done before. We've done this before, and then now that we're in pottery, we're at 17.2 or 17.1, whichever one you like. We're going to take 17.1 too. And then I'm going to click on that pottery card, and guess what? There's that pottery card that you were working on. Now this is the time you can finally hit that button. If you want, now's the time you can hit it like this, or you can, add another one. You don't want to make it Middle Islamic. Say you want to go back to early Islamic like there, and you don't want it to be a jar, you want it to be a plate. And now we can, if you want to test to make sure your button works, you can delete that, and you can check out your purple slipped ware. Or if you want to go to Middle Islamic, click on Middle Islamic where that purple slipped ware is there. Now it's a Middle Islamic plate, purple slipped ware. Now we can click on the plus button. And what it's doing now is it's thinking, and if you look down at the bottom now, you can see that Middle Islamic one plate with purple slipped ware. And of course, this is where you add all your pottery. In previous videos, I showed how to add vessels. I haven't added them yet, but you can see vessels and how to add comments. And if you need to add additional periods as well, we've done that in previous videos. But in this video, we're talking about how to add where button to our pottery card. So now that that's done, we can click out of this, go back out. And if you look carefully, you can also see now this is bag or pail too. This is slightly different than some of you may be using. Instead of pottery bags, you're using pottery pails. They are the same So here is 2, and you can see it says 1 plate with purple slipped grayware, which is interesting. Now, just to check yourself, let's check to see if it is here. Then it'll be in our hidden button, which we also talked about in a previous video, which talks about these advanced buttons. We click on here, and this is where we can scroll up to find every pottery entry. And if we go up here to the top, and it's just easiest for me just kind of scroll down and look for purple slipped grayware because it's so bizarre. There's no such thing as pink or purple, or well, maybe there is, who knows. You can see that we now have Middle Islamic 3. It says there are 3 vessels, 1, 2, and 3. One of them is this plate that we put in, 1712, that is stratigraphic unit or locus number 1, bag or pail number 2, and then the total being 1 plate. Now, as we've also pointed out, if you want to make a change, such as you want to change this from 1 to 2, you can do that by changing that here. This is the only place that you can make those changes, and once you've done that, then you can hit this check mark like that, and when we go through the whole thing, go back to where we were. Here we are. You'll notice it has changed it to 2, and that's important. We're going to go back here, home button, and then we're going to go to home 2. And at home 2, once we get to our home button, we can now go to our pottery charts. But we already have the pottery charts up. It hasn't refreshed, so I'm going to click out one of them, then click back into it, and here it is. There it is, our purple slipped grayware. If we look at wares, now what happens is that if we look carefully, here's that blue slipped. But if we look carefully, we can find our purple slipped. There's one. If we roll over it, there are 2 purple slipped. And now, of course, these aren't very tall because there's so much plain creamware in this demo and so much brittleware that they look like there's not much. But if you just hover over the top of them with your mouse, it'll give you the totals. You can also see the vessel types. You can see the vessel types as well. And we just click on 17.1, and it'll show you there should be an extra plate. And now we have 3 plates in 17.1. So that concludes our video for today. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email me at bates@andrews.edu, and I'll see if I can walk you through any of your problems. Because there are some things that may turn up that might be an issue, such as what happens if the new ware button does not show up in the, you clicked on it, but it doesn't show up, say, in the reading. So if we go back here and we click on our example, what happens if it doesn't show up here? Usually the reason for that is that the button did not have the correct spelling. It needs to be spelled correctly in all the places. So whether or not, so this purple slipped ware has to be correctly put inside the button parameter. If not, it's not going to type it in. Now, if you make a spelling mistake, where do you make the corrections? Let's go back and let's kind of see how that's done. We're going to go over here to our Pottery Card, like so. And let's suppose that I'm going to put in a spelling mistake here. I'm going to edit the layout. I'm going to go to that purple slipped button like this, and I'm going to, oops, I'm going to accidentally take out the U, like so. And save. Now what happens when you make a mistake like that, when you hit the button for purple slipped, I'm going to go early Islamic, we're going to go 1, we're going to say purple slipped grayware, and you can see that it's misspelled it. Because it's misspelled, it's not going to show up in the chart. Yes, it will show up in, when I come back to this, it will show up somewhere else, like on misspelled here. And let's go back and I'm going to show you what I mean. Now I'm going to go here. It's been misspelled. I'm going to hit the card button again, and I'm going to add early Islamic purple. I'm going to hit plus, and what's going to happen is it will show up, but it's going to be spelled incorrectly. Now what are you going to do about that? To make that correction, first you have to fix the button itself. So we're going to again go to our Pottery Card, go up to Edit Layout, go to the script parameter, and then fix the script parameter first like this. All right, now it's been corrected, so it's not going to make the same mistake again. But if we go back, we're going to look and see that, oh, it still has one. In fact, I didn't even put in a vessel type, so it didn't include it. It doesn't know what to do with it. So how do we fix that? Well, the way we fix that is we now need to go back to where it came from, where we started this, go to 17.1 where it's located, and then we're going to click on that readings button and look for the mistake. Here we are back at the readings. This is the list of all the pottery readings that were made that you entered using the Pottery Card. This is where they all land, and then from here statistics are created. But if I were to take this and say go back to my Pottery Chart, and I look for that Pottery Chart for a statistic here in the statistics for number 1, you can see that the misspelled one is not here, but the other purple slip that we just added is also not here. It hasn't been added because it doesn't recognize the name. Oh, in order to fix that, again, we're going to go back to our Home button, and we're going to go to our last, to the pottery, click the readings button. Now we need to find that mistake. Where is that mistake at? Somewhere in here, something is misspelled. Here it is. See here it says purple is misspelled. So how do you fix that? Well, the way to fix that, if it's already here and it's spelled correctly here, you can just simply put the correct spelling in and then hit this checkbox and it will make the correction for you. Hit the arrow to take you back to where you were, and you'll see that it is almost correct. I almost got it right. I forgot to add something. What? Let's go back to where we were. See, it doesn't have a vessel. So let's call jar. I'm going to put jar in there. We're going to now make the change. Updated this. Go back to where we went. Now you're going to notice that it didn't fix it, right? No, it doesn't, because it needs to be refreshed. The easiest way to refresh is to click into the Pottery Card, hit the plus button, click out of it, and it will redo it. Notice 1 jar with purple slip grayware and 2 plates with purple slip grayware. Now it has been corrected. Now those types of troubleshooting issues are things that you probably will need to contact me if you have a problem with, if you can't work it out for yourself. But that is one of the most common mistakes, is that people don't spell things correctly exactly, and they must appear exactly. It's why it's usually best to copy and paste. Once you type out the type of ware and the abbreviation for that ware, and that abbreviation, as you remember, will be the abbreviation that shows up here in the stats or in the wares. You see, we can't have too long a length. Even purple slipped is pretty long. Or here in the stats, because there's only so much space and only so much screen. Select number 1. So this is what this is where these abbreviations will appear, and that's usually because it wasn't copied and pasted correctly. If you have any other questions, like I said, don't hesitate to contact me, and I hope that this will help you as you begin to modify your database to meet your needs, and so that you can build pottery cards and data which will help us better understand the site that you're working at.